She works like a charm. You want to know how you can make a bait tank like this for under $200 that'll keep bait just as good as your buddy's $1,000 bait tank? Stick around, we're going to show you how. So most all commercial bait tanks have 4 certain features in common. They're either round or oval in shape. They have a filter system to filter out any slime or scales or poop in the water. They have a pump to make sure the water's circulating at all times. And they have some type of oxygen infusion system to put thousands of tiny little bubbles in the water, which is very important. So most all commercial bait tanks that you're going to buy in the store are well over $1,000. Now that's fine if you're a professional guide or a very serious tournament fisherman, or you're going to use it all the time. But for the average weekend guy, we just don't want to spend $1,000 for a bait tank. You can even buy some of the lower end brands for around $600, but that's still a lot. Now, if you can afford or you would rather run a commercial bait tank, the 3 brands I just showed you would be my top picks. Creek Bank bait tanks seem to be one of the best tanks on the market. I ran that tank for several years. I think I ran a 50-gallon, and I put a lot of bait through it. It worked great. The Extreme bait tanks, I've never used one, but I've heard they're an awesome brand. Now, and then the Bait Boss, I think that's a newer tank. I've just recently seen them, but they look like a very well-made bait tank. So I would recommend any of the 3 of those brands. But now this is for the weekend guy, or the guy that just fishes every once in a while, wants a place to keep some shad alive. This is what this is for. You don't want to spend a ton of money on a tank. You want a quick, easy version. So let's get started. We're going to take a cooler that we have purchased used. We're going to take some PVC pipe, some plexiglass, a pump, a Venturi, some stainless steel hardware. We're going to make our own bait tank for under $200. All right, so what we've done so far, we found is a 105 quart cooler. It's like 27 gallon. We found it on Facebook Marketplace, I think, for $45. So I bought this cooler. It's an older cooler, but hey, it works. What I did so far, now you do not have to do this. This was just my choice. I put some side walls in with the plexiglass just because you can kind of see these grooves that run up and down through here. I just kind of wanted to block those off, but like I said, that was all my choice. You don't have to do that. I just had some extra plexiglass, so I decided to do it. This is going to end up being, by the time we cut off the filter box area, probably going to be about a 20-gallon tank. That's plenty big enough to hold 15 to 20 gizzards. Or maybe 30 thread fins. Just depends on the time of the year. But this will serve the purpose. It will do the job. So what we are trying to do, as we mentioned before, all bait tanks are either rounded or oval. We are wanting to take our plexiglass and make sure it is rounded on both sides. We've already put this side in. We did have to fit this thing together before we shot a video. Just wanted to make sure everything worked and it was good to go. That side, you can see we've already cut out our hole for our Venturi, which is our pump outlet, and then we cut out our mouse hole to put our intake in. Alright, so I apologize for the messy workspace. So after a little trial and error, we found out that the best measurement to get our rounded edge with our plexiglass is to measure it 1 inch larger than what the cooler is inside. So the cooler inside is 13.5 inches. So what we did, we measured it out to 14.5 inches. So we're going to cut it, like I said, 1 inch larger. That allows us to get that bend, and then it's not putting too much stress on it. Now, to bend the plexiglass, there's a little trick we're going to show you here in a minute, but first we're going to get this cut. Now, I'm cutting it with a jigsaw with a fine-tooth blade and with the jigsaw on the highest speed possible. That seems to work pretty good to keep the plexiglass from shattering or cracking or chipping. So we're going to go ahead and get that cut, and then we'll get ready to bend it, and I'll show you how we do that. Alright, so here's our plexiglass. You can see that we have kind of formed it to do that. Now here's a video showing how we had to do that to get it formed to fit in here. Alright, so a little trick to get our 1/4-inch plexiglass to bend like it should. We have to put heat to it. That stuff, it will bend, but it is very difficult to try to bend. So what I did is I took a round piece of wood and put underneath it, put the plexiglass across, and put a rock on each side. A little redneck ingenuity goes a long way sometimes. So we're going to heat it up, and be very careful. Don't hold heat on it. Just go back and forth and back and forth. Now this takes a little bit of time, but it's well worth it to help get that bend on the plexiglass. So we're going to heat it up. Now one thing you can see, our corners, we rounded both corners because this cooler is not perfectly straight up and down. It has a round radius down at the bottom of it, and it helps this fit a little bit better. So let's fire up the torch. And I've just got a weed killer torch. You can buy it at Rural King. You can use just a regular propane bottle torch. Whatever you got will work. You can put a salamander heater on it. Whatever works for you, man. Just put some heat to it, but like I said, just be careful. Don't really hold the heat to it, because it will start melting. So let's fire up the torch. Who doesn't like to play with a flamethrower anyway? Let's put some heat to it. Alright, so we've got our formed piece of plexiglass. We're going to fit it in right here. Now it takes a little bit of maneuvering, but we'll get it fit right in there, just like that. We want to try to get it as close to the bottom as possible and as close to these sides as possible. So we've got it in. We'll come back here later and add some sealant here to seal this off. Alright, so here's another optional thing. I had some extra plastic laying around. I actually work for a boat company, and we get some scrap sometimes. So I had this scrap plastic. Now this is optional as well. I just made a back wall for a little more sturdiness, just something so this plexiglass is hitting up against. I don't 100% know that it's necessary, but I wanted to do that, like I said, just to give it a little extra support. Alright, so you have to have some kind of intake for your filter box. So what we did, we took some 3/4 PVC. What's going to happen, this will set just like this. This will be on the bottom of the tank. Water will come in through these holes. As the water level rises in the actual bait holding compartment, as the water level rises, it's going to rise up through this pipe. This pipe, the top of this pipe, is actually shorter than what the water level will be in the bait holding area. So this will actually overflow into your filter. Your filter will filter the water, and then there's holes in the filter box. We'll show you the filter box here in just a minute. Your pump will pick it up and then pump it back into the bait holding compartment. So what we did, like I said, we took some 3/4 inch PVC pipe, a cap, an elbow, and another piece of pipe, just made an L. Basically, we drilled several holes. This will be sticking out into the tank itself, and then the rest of this will come out into the filter area. This pipe will come up through the filter box. We'll show you that here in a minute, but like I said, really simple. We just drilled a bunch of holes in it so it'll allow water to come in and flow up this pipe. We'll get this installed right now. You need to fix this where it's stationary and it cannot move. We'll show you how we're going to do that. Alright, any of the holes you drill, go ahead and make sure you put some kind of silicone on it or some kind of marine sealant. Because what you don't want to happen You don't want water to leak inside of your cooler. If it does, over time, especially if you get some freezing cold weather, it can freeze and bust. And you definitely don't want that. Alright, so we're going to just screw this down. Make sure it's in place. Now, I'm using stainless steel screws on everything because you're going to end up adding salt to your water. If you do not use stainless steel, you're going to have a bunch of rusted screws, and you don't want that. Pull this pipe out and get it out of the way. Alright, so now we've got that in place. It's good and solid. So we bought us a pump. This is just a 600-gallon pump. It was $25 at our local bait and tackle shop. Now, I would highly recommend, if you can, to splurge on a pump. We were just trying to keep it within budget. If you've got the budget to spend a little extra, I would get a Rule or an Atwood. It's just a little bit better pump, but this will work just fine for what we're doing. Alright, so for our pump setup, we showed you earlier that we have bought just a cheap pump from our local bait and tackle shop. Definitely, like I said before, if you can splurge on a pump, please splurge on a pump. Now, I splurged just a little bit. You can find a cheaper one. I think TH Marine makes a Keep Alive or something aerator system that kind of does the same thing. But I like the Dancos. This is a Danco bulkhead. This is, I think, a LV8, I think is the model. It's set up for a 500 to 800 gallon pump. We're running a 600 gallon, so this is perfect. So we're going to get this installed. It has a Venturi. The Venturi will just suck air and put little bitty oxygen bubbles in the water, which is very important when keeping shad alive. So we're going to have to kind of disassemble this to get it put in. Let's disassemble it and we'll work on getting it put in. Alright, so you can see we got our pump in, we got our Venturi through the hole in the plexiglass. We're going to be sure to put our gasket on, screw our nut down, tighten it down. Now we have our pump and Venturi installed. Before we screw this bulkhead in, we're going to put our hose on for our Venturi. Now we can screw our bulkhead in and get that set. Alright, so a very critical part of your bait tank setup is some kind of filter. So we have built us a filter box. Like I said, I had some extra plastic. You really could use you could use a piece of PVC pipe. You could use a round piece of like 4-inch PVC pipe with some caps. Would serve the same exact purpose. You could probably get you or you may have a piece of 4-inch PVC laying around. PVC is fairly inexpensive. So you could do that. You could use, I've seen guys use a Tupperware container. A Tupperware container. I mean, really. So, but I had some extra plastic laying around. So I built me a filter box. You can see it has a hole that the pipe will come up through. And then we have holes low on the filter box. We got them on the back side, on both sides. I did not put any on the front because my pipe is closer to the front. Here would be the front. My pipe is a little closer, so I don't really have a lot of room for filter there. So I am planning on doing most of my filter on the side, the back, bottom, and so on. So I put a little leg here just to help support the filter, and then the pipe, where the pipe comes through, will kind of help support the rest of the filter. So your filter box is just going to set down right on top of your pipe, just like that. Alright, so now we're just going to go around, we're going to seal all these seams, the seam on the bottom, on this side. And I've contemplated, I'm not 100% sure, I thought about taking some great stuff and putting back behind here, because what I don't want is water to splash back behind here and water get trapped. It is a cooler, so I can tilt it up. I don't want a shad to get stuck back behind here either, because that gets pretty nasty if you lose a shad and it gets stuck there. So we're going to go ahead and seal these seams. Then give it time to set up and we'll be ready to test. Alright, so we gave it some time for the sealant to set up. Let's put some water in it. It's a moment of truth. Let's see if it works. She works like a charm. You can see our filter, our hose is overflowing into our filter. It's coming out the side of the box, filling up this filter compartment so the pump can pick it up, pump it back in there. Beautiful. We got kind of an angle so we can see some circulation. You can see it kind of circulating back through. And that's one thing that's very important when keeping shad, is to make sure you have plenty of circulation and you're getting some oxygen in the water. Perfect. It's working exactly like we wanted it to. I feel very confident. Like I said, we can keep 15 to 20 gizzards, or even probably 30 thread fins at least, depending on the time of the year. I would call it a success. So guys, a cheap, efficient way you can make a bait tank out of a cooler for $200.